I promise you, you are going to be the first 6 or the first 7-figure entrepreneur in your family if you watch and subscribe to this YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how I went from a social worker making $2,500 a month to $1 million entrepreneur. So I'm currently in Cabo San Lucas, and I was thinking about my younger self who was struggling to make ends meet. I had $100K of debt. I had a 3-hour round trip commute to my 9-to-5 job. I didn't have a way out. I thought about getting my PhD. I thought about going to get another job, but I realized that literally all jobs are racist for women of color. None of them would give me the wealth, the freedom, the safety that entrepreneurship would give me, so I decided to start my own business. It was anything but smooth. It was rocky, it was frustrating, and if somebody told me the lessons that I'm about to teach you today, it would have saved me so much time. So get out a pen and paper, let's dive in. I started my business in 2018, but it wasn't the first business I started, and that's actually lesson number 1. I started off side hustling. I had a nanny agency in college, I had an Etsy shop trying to make money on the side. I always dabbled in entrepreneurship because my 9-to-5 paycheck was never enough. So I actually started off doing Beachbody network marketing, which is low-key embarrassing right now, but it was actually the gateway for entrepreneurship. I didn't resonate with any of their strategies, but it taught me the power of personal development. It taught me the power of believing in myself. It taught me the power of making money outside of a 9-to-5 job. From there, I learned about the coaching industry, which I think is the best industry in the world. So lesson number 1, start small. And so I found the coaching industry in 2018 from a person telling me about it in a podcast episode, and I decided to start my business, but I didn't have a website. I didn't have a coaching certification. I had my master's in social work, but I didn't have a coaching certification, and I just decided to start small. So I literally found my first client in a Facebook group. Yes, a Facebook group. And a person was asking for help. I said that I could help them and how I could help them, and they said yes to my offer. And so I think I charged like $1,000 for 3 months, and me and this client are still in touch to this day. It was just a lesson that making money does not have to be challenging. You don't need a lot of setup to get started. So that was in 2018. In 2019, I matched my 9-to-5 salaries. On paper, I was making $39,000 in my 9-to-5 job, even though my take-home pay was like $2,500 a month. And I actually matched that in my coaching business, which blew my mind. And I did that because of the power of consistency. And so I was just showing up, even though a client wasn't there every single day, even though my account only had like 200 Instagram followers, even though I constantly worried how I was going to find my next client, I just showed up from the power of consistency. And then in 2020, that's when things got interesting. I went from 40K to 300K, and so many people ask me, Dielle, how did you do that? And they don't want to know the real answer, which is mindset work. I got introduced by another Black female entrepreneurship friend, the power of mindset work, which is how your thinking is going to impact your reality. And I remember I was trying to sign 8 clients in 1 month, and I only had like 2 clients that month, and it was about to be the end of the month. And I was so worried I wasn't gonna hit my goal and what that would mean about my business and what that would mean about my ability to become a full-time entrepreneur one day. But then I thought about, what if my thoughts actually created my results? What if how I'm thinking is going to be the difference between if I hit my goal or not? So I decided to believe, without any rhyme or reason, that I was going to hit my goal. And this is different from like manifesting. I actually looked at my thoughts, I looked at my feelings, and I looked at my actions, and I asked myself, are these in alignment with my results? So many people want the results in their business, they want the results in their career, but their thoughts are all off. Like, how was I going to hit my goal if I was thinking that I was going to fail all the time? I had to believe that my 6 other people were out there, even if I couldn't see them that time. And so that's exactly what I did. I said, my 6 people are out there. I was feeling way more confident, and then I was showing up like those 6 people were actually out there. I was making stronger offers. I was following up with past people who said they were interested but never got back to me. I was generating new interest in my business, and that is how I actually ended up with 10 people at the end of the month. And that blew my mind and skyrocketed my success that year. So in 2019, I made 40K, and then by the end end of 2020, I made $300K in my business because I constantly was working on my mindset. And then with working on your mindset, that's actually where you will start to get better business skills. I worked a lot on creating high converting content. And then I also worked on closing my sales calls. So I wasn't necessarily worried about doing the most perfect webinar or putting together an advanced funnel. Again, I still didn't have a really good website at this time either. But then I did have a website, but it wasn't that great. But instead, I really focused on how can I focus on my mindset? How can I create better content? And then how can I convert on my sales calls? Also in 2020, I really wanted to quit my job. I was starting to make a lot more money. Again, the year before, I matched my income, but I wasn't saving any of that income. So I was spending it on things in my life or spending it on more coaching programs. And that was really, really frustrating to be making money in my business, but I didn't see any of it. So that's also why I started a Quit Your Job Fund. And that was another game changer. From there, it became a game. And I just started it by putting $500 into it. But then every time I signed a client, I put more money. And my belief grew and grew that I could be a full-time coach one day as the bank account grew and grew. So many people are waiting to quit their 9-to-5 job because they just want to replace their income top line. So say they make $5,000 a month in their 9-to-5 job and they're waiting to hit $5,000 a month in their business. That's actually not what's going to make you feel safe to quit your 9-to-5 job. You need that Quit Your Job Fund so that you can actually save up 6 to 12 months of expenses, and then you'll feel way more safer to be a full-time entrepreneur. So as my savings account was growing, my belief was growing as well, but I still didn't really feel like an expert. And as a coach, I needed to feel like an expert. I needed to feel confident that I could get people results. I needed to feel confident that I could market. So I did something insane that changed my perspective on myself and my own confidence. And that was I did a 30-day self-coaching journaling session challenge on myself where I answered the question of how am I an expert for 30 days. And I created new ideas and new ways that I was an expert, and I grew my belief in myself. But I also created a lot of interesting frameworks that I could teach my clients, interesting things that I can talk about on social media. And that's how I really got a lot more visible, by putting out those ideas that I was doing in my self-coaching session, putting out those ideas on social media. So again, I know people sleep on mindset work, but it literally changed the game for me. So I opened with the Quit Your Job savings account back in March, and then by October, so what is that, 6-7 months, I actually was able to hit my goal of having 6 months in the bank. And then I told my husband that I wanted to quit. And again, a lot of people have a lot of problems with their husbands. And I always say your husband will be on board with your business if you do two things. Number one, if you always talk about your business in a positive light. So I never complained about my business. I never told him how hard my business was or how inconsistent I was with my business. I always either brought it to a friend or I brought it to a mentor who understood the context of business, because he didn't know. I never complained to my husband about my business. And then the second thing I did was every time I did sign a client, even if it was far and few between in the beginning, I always celebrated with him. So he created a positive association with my business. I showed those two things to my partner and he was like, you can quit. I have no problem with you quitting. You have savings, you have income coming in this whole time. Again, he had a great positive relationship with my business, so he had no fear about me being full-time. So I put in my notice in October, and then I was able to be full-time that January. So starting off 2021, this is where it got a lot of fun. And so I raised my prices. I booked out of 101 coaching. I also did my first proper launch, and I had my first 6-figure launch in my business of my group program. I then ended that year with making over $500,000 cash, my first full-time year as an entrepreneur. But don't get it twisted. I think it's because I learned all of the grunt work while I was side hustling. I learned the skill of content creation. I learned the skill of sales calls. I was doing mindset work on myself. I was managing my money. I did all of that while still side hustling, and then that's what actually helped me quit my 9-to-5 job and then have a $500K year, my first full-time year in business. So don't sleep on the side hustle phase. Don't sleep on the grind phase. And it doesn't even really have to be a grind. I worked part-time hours throughout the whole thing. I kept my Saturdays free so I could rest from my business and my 9-to-5 job. So that year in my business, I made $500,000 and blew my own mind. We also bought a house. I paid off over like $50,000 of debt that year. It was just an up-level year and one of my favorite times in business. But then I knew that I was going to go for that $1 million goal. And honestly, hitting $1 million is super easy once you actually figure out all those steps in between. But then in that 500K year, I actually got really good at the skill of launching. So I launched 3 separate times, and all of those were 6-figure launches, meaning within a week or 2 weeks, I made 6 figures within that week. About $200,000 came from one-on-one coaching, and then $300,000 came from group programs. And I'm so glad I learned the skill of one-on-one coaching first, because that helped me be successful with launching right away. So many people sleep on one-on-one coaching, but it's actually the foundation of every single coaching business. You're not going to have a great webinar if you don't know how to do a great sales call. You're not going to create an amazing funnel if you first didn't start off with everyday content. You have to learn the basics in order to scale to the next level. After I had an amazing 500K year, that's when I decided that I was going for the million. And honestly, y'all, I was so scared. The identity, the fear, the team needed. And also, I just knew that $1 million would also cause me a lot of hate. Like, I knew that people necessarily wouldn't come with me to that level because it would trigger them so much, or they had so many negative connotations around $1 million business owner. And I just knew, again, that I was setting myself up for more exposure and more online hate. And I'm not gonna lie, that actually did happen. People thought that I was money hungry. People thought I was just doing it for the money. People thought I was just trying to take their money without any client results. And mind you, I had some of the best client results in the industry. My clients would work with me and they would get money. I would say over the history of my business, like, I have made over $5 million in my business over the past 7 years that I've been an entrepreneur, but my clients have made $35 million. Like, my client results are insane, but I knew that people would still think that about me. But I decided to go for it anyways because I knew that I wanted to be an example of what's possible. I knew that more people wanted to make $1 million than the haters that I would receive online. And also, I believed that I could actually do it. And so I believe that all of the skills I learned would then help me make $1 million. So again, a lot of people think, okay, well, what was the one thing that helped you make $1 million? It was actually the years of work prior where all the skills cobbled up into one. That's what helped me make $1 million. So I made $1 million by simply launching my group programs. I had 2 group programs. One was about helping people quit their 9-to-5 jobs, and one was about scaling their businesses to multiple 6 figures. And so I had those 2 offers, a beginning offer and an advanced offer, and both of them were group programs. And I literally just launched those one after another until I hit $1 million that year. And I had to get over the negative Nancy's. I had to get over the people that thought I was just doing it for the money. And I had to get over all of those things in order to do it. And it was some of the best work ever. When you face a lot of criticism, it only gives you the opportunity to focus on self-love and doubling down on yourself. So every time I get criticism now, it's just an opportunity to love my own decisions, love the reasons behind why I'm doing what I'm doing, connect to the impact that I'm actually creating. It gives me an opportunity to be an example of what's possible for other people. So I hit my first $1 million year in 2022, and then I've hit $1 million ever since. So in 2023, another $1 million year. In 2024, another $1 million year. And so far in 2025, we already crossed 500K, and it's only May 20th. And so we're already looking at another $1 million year. And now I finally feel ready, and after learning more skills at the $1 million year, to go to $10 million. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but that is my next income goal. So I hope this video inspired you. I hope this video gave you some tangible skills on what you need to focus on next. And I promise you, you are going to be the first 6 or the first 7-figure entrepreneur in your family if you watch and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll see you in the next video.